try ZipRecruiter for free at ziprecruiter.com/free instead of waiting for my
Hey everyone, it's Bard Luckett, and once again I'm overdoing a school assignment. I've noticed a recent rise, at least in my For You page, of historical medieval combat videos, and I find them extremely interesting. Though with these videos I am discovering something. I realize how little we are actually taught about the medieval ages, which has led to a rise of misled ideas about them. It can get extremely annoying to have people literally prove aspects about history, and then see people flail about trying to defend the impractical aspects they have taken for fact. So that is what I'll be talking about today. So without any further ado, let's get into it. It's pretty easy to look at the Dark Ages as just that, dark. We seem to get told a lot that these ages were a time of stagnation and many discoveries and human advancement. However, I've done a bit of research and found some aspects about the medieval ages that are integral to our modern life. First off, science was not completely dead during this time, and they weren't all dumb idiots like most people on the internet. One thing that often gets thrown around is that everyone back then believed that the Earth was flat, which is simply not true, as many medieval scientists have pointed out how to see the curve of the Earth. Also, astronomy wasn't dead either, as inventions like the astrolabe, a device for tracking celestial bodies, was created during this period. Speaking of innovation, the medieval period had a fair share of inventions, such as these. And that's not even looking at the advancement of weaponry and armor that we often associate with the time period. It seems to me that we underestimate the medieval period a lot. But why? Well, possibly it's the name. The name Middle Ages and Dark Ages came from the Renaissance people because they were trying to regain the roots of Greece and Rome and other ancient civilizations. So the era in between was a big nothing burger. Because of our lack of respect for the time period, we tend not to teach people about these eras, leading to many misconceptions to arise, creating a cycle. This can be especially dangerous when we look at yes, our favorite thing to look at with the Middle Ages. From what I remember with my schooling, this was basically all that we talked about for this time period. But even then, we still have misinformation spread about it. We only had one job. It's a common idea that the plague was spread from fleas on rats, but fleas could have existed on many other animals, so rats might not be the only culprit. Along with that, the bubonic plague didn't just affect the poor, it also affected nobles. It's just the amount of nobles compared to impoverished people was so big that it skewed the numbers. Even the name the Black Death wasn't created back then. It's only a possible translation from it, along with the horrible death. Even the stuff that we're actually taught in school tends to be somewhere between completely wrong or just misguided. The problem misinformation poses is especially prevalent with the plague, because recently we've had one of our own. Because of our contorted sense of history, the idea of quarantine was odd and foreign, even though it was used during the bubonic plague to great effect. This misinformation can lead us to perceive non-issues as more important than the actual issues that we're presented with. Oh shoot, I need a cool trend. Okay, I think it's finally time to get into everybody's favorite part of medieval history. Swords, axes, armor, knights, and the myths about those. First thing I see often, usually spawned from video games, is the idea that armor was clunky and could be cut through. Think you know where this is going. Plate armor, though heavy, was spread out to even its weight. And even though it weighed a lot, it doesn't weigh any more than modern soldier armor. Also, no, it did not make you move super slow, and no, it didn't make you not be able to move your arms a lot. The main downside was that it made you more tired the more that you had on. Also, no, steel can't be cut through that easily. Though these myths are important to debunk, I think two aspects are more interesting in my opinion to look at. So, let's first look at everybody's favorite powerhouse weapon that can cut through anything, the katana. So my first point is that... Wait, what is that? Okay, before I get into the katana, disclaimer, I like the katana. It's a very cool sword, and I don't think it's right to say it's worse than any other swords, because that's not true. Swords come in many different shapes and sizes because they have many different uses. The katana is no different. Anyway, disclaimer aside, let's get into the misconceptions. First is the idea that katanas were razor sharp, being able to slice through anything like butter. Well, first off, it's all but impossible to slice through everything. And second, even if the blade was that sharp, it wouldn't last very long. To keep the sharp edge, you need to constantly be sharpening it after basically every cut, because edge is dull. Even with the edge properties of the steel used for the katana, nothing keeps a perfect edge forever. Okay, moving on from the katana before I get crucified, let's go back to armor. One trend that I, and I'm sure anyone who's consumed any fantasy media, have seen around is the inaccuracy in the depictions of armor. The inconsistency can range from simply not wearing a helmet, all the way to a metallic bikini that is supposed to protect the character who is in the front lines of battle. One thing about it that makes me uncomfortable is you mainly see very sexualized suit of armor on female characters. This female armor sexualization has even become a trope in fantasy. As male characters will have much more protective suits, the female characters will be showing a lot of skin. It strikes me as a sexist issue. To me, it implies that even if women are soldiers, which some of them were even in the medieval period, they still have to be sexualized. The whole need for women to be sexualized can paint a very destructive idea, and many people help create even more objectification for women to face. Okay, there we go. Finally, off my chest. Thank you for tuning in. I know this... Wait. Do you hear that? Honestly, I don't think it matters. If it did, then they would be teaching it in schools. Well, as I have stated in my points above, this is one of the issues that I think we should change. I think that there are many important issues that should be taught in school, and even just offering a better education during this time period could be beneficial. Well, in a fantasy world, magic could explain these misconceptions like bikini armor. Okay, completely ignoring the other issues I have with it, I find the idea of magic being a fix-all to be a weak one. Why not have a full suit of armor enchanted with protective properties instead of bikini armor? Or even just normal clothes enchanted? Why not have your superpowered characters use smart tactics to become even better on the battlefield? Also, I feel as though the magic point is really weak from a storytelling perspective. For example, if your character, or weapon, is powerful enough to cut through anything, that's more boring in my opinion than having a character use smart maneuvering and creative uses of what they have to beat even the strongest enemy. Well, sometimes these things could be used as creative freedom for writers. This one is a lot more of an interesting point to me than the other two, because in this case I would actually have to agree with the other side. Giving yourself the freedom to do inaccurate things for the sake of plot is important. However, I do think that the inaccuracies are a little oversaturated. The accuracies for history could be used for great effect. Take for example the Mandalorian. Though set in the future, the armor of the characters is pretty cool and inspired by historical examples. Another aspect used in the Mandalorian is how the Mandalorian rarely takes his helmet off. And it's used for plot points and big character points, and is very well done. It shows that you don't have to have actors' face visible when they act. So keep those helmets on, at least during combat. So, that's all that I wanted to talk about. I think having more opportunities for people to learn about historical accuracy can be beneficial for the world as a whole. I know this topic isn't as important as some others could be, but I think it's part of a much bigger issue. With the rise of the internet comes the rise of misinformation, and I think we should keep the fight to keep the truth ringing true. Thank you. Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. I know this was a little bit different than what I usually do, but as I've said before, it's part of a class. So, yeah, I decided to go full video essay on this, which isn't usually my forte, but I hope it turned out at least a little bit okay. Anyway, thanks guys, we'll see you guys later.